All right. So today we're going to take a deep dive
Yeah.
into Ramit Sethi's I Will Teach You to Be Rich. And,
Oh,
this is a book that you shared with us. And, we're going to help everyone listening unlock some seriously smart money moves. And especially since you're in your 20s and
yeah.
30s, like it's the perfect time to start building a strong financial foundation.
It is. So
Yeah, what I really find compelling
sorry.
about Sethi's book is that it's not just about like saving every penny.
Right.
It's about creating a system that works for you,
Yeah.
that allows you to enjoy your life
I love that.
while still achieving your
Yeah.
financial goals.
Yeah. So much of the personal finance advice out there
Totally.
makes it feel like you have to choose between like enjoying the present and securing your future.
Yes.
Um, okay. So one of the first things that caught my eye
Yeah.
was this anecdote about Sethi's father's intense car negotiation tactics.
Yeah.
He literally spent days going back and forth with dealerships.
Oh my, demanding free floor mats at the last minute.
I love it.
So what's the takeaway here?
It's brilliant, isn't it?
Yeah.
The Indian negotiation, as he calls it,
Mm-hmm.
isn't really about being cheap or difficult.
Right.
It's about understanding your leverage
Okay.
and being willing to walk away if you're not getting the deal that you want.
Right.
It's about shifting your mindset from being a passive consumer
Okay.
to being an active negotiator,
Getcha.
especially when it comes to big purchases.
So it's more about confidence and preparation than like
Yeah,
haggling over every last dollar.
exactly. It's about doing your research,
Okay.
knowing your worth,
Uh-huh.
and not being afraid to ask for what you want.
Right.
And, that principle applies to so much more than just buying a car.
Yeah.
Think about negotiating your salary or getting a better interest rate on a loan or
Well-
even getting fees waived on your credit card.
Yeah, that makes total sense.
It's all about being assertive and advocating for yourself.
Yeah. It's easy to feel intimidated in those situations, but knowing you have the power to negotiate really changes the game.
Absolutely.
Now, speaking of credit cards,
Yeah,
Sethi actually encourages using them.
he does.
He says that optimizing your credit score is as crucial as saving money.
It is.
But isn't that kind of counterintuitive?
Yeah,
Most advice is to avoid credit card debt, like the plague.
right. And Sethi definitely emphasizes responsible use,
Okay.
but he makes a really interesting point about credit scores.
Okay.
A good credit score is like
Okay.
having a secret weapon in your financial arsenal
Right.
because it can save you thousands of dollars in interest
Okay.
on loans for things like a car or a house.
Right.
And the sooner you start building good credit,
Yeah.
the better.
So how do we do that?
One of the first things Sethi recommends is understanding how credit scores actually work.
Okay.
He breaks it down into these 6 commandments of credit card use,
Okay.
and they're all about establishing a positive credit history. Things like paying your bills on time, keeping your credit utilization low.
Wait, hold on. What's credit utilization?
Of course.
You're going to have to break that down for me.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of technical.
It's actually pretty simple. Credit utilization is the percentage of your available credit
Okay.
that you're currently using.
Okay.
So let's say you have a credit card
Uh-huh.
with a $10,000 limit
Okay.
and you have a balance of $2,000 on it.
All right.
Your credit utilization would be 20%.
Okay.
Sethi recommends keeping it below 30%
Gotcha.
to maintain a good credit score.
So it's not just about avoiding debt.
Right.
It's also about how much of your available credit you're using.
Exactly.
That's an interesting perspective.
Yeah.
Okay, what else is on this list of credit card commandments?
Okay. So
You said there are 6 of them, right?
yes. So we've covered paying on time.
Yep.
And keeping your credit utilization low.
Mm-hmm.
Another key one is getting more credit to improve your score.
Wait a second.
Yeah.
Isn't that how you end up in more debt?
That's the common misconception. But think about it this way.
Okay.
If you have more available credit
Okay.
and you're still using the same amount,
Uh-huh.
your credit utilization rate goes down,
Oh.
which actually improves your score.
So it's all about balance.
Yes,
Having access to credit, but using it responsibly.
exactly.
Liz?
And this is where Sethi's emphasis on action comes in.
Okay.
He provides an actual script for calling credit card companies to negotiate lower interest rates
Wow.
and waive fees.
That's empowering.
It's about taking control and not being afraid to ask.
And what about credit card debt?
Yeah.
We can't just ignore that elephant in the room.
Yeah, for sure.
A lot of people in their 20s and 30s are dealing with student loans and credit card debt. It can feel overwhelming.
Absolutely. And Sethi doesn't sugarcoat it.
Okay.
He has a whole section dedicated to getting out of debt.
Uh-huh.
And he emphasizes an aggressive approach.
What does that look like?
It's about paying more than the minimum balance,
Okay.
even if it's just a little bit extra each month.
Okay.
By paying down the principal faster,
Right.
you reduce the total amount of interest you pay over time.
So it's like a snowball effect.
Exactly.
The more you pay down, the less interest accrues and the faster you get out of debt.
Precisely. And he also highlights the psychological benefits of this approach.
Okay.
Seeing your debt shrink rapidly can be incredibly motivating and can help you break free from that cycle of minimum payments,
Right.
which can keep you trapped for years.
Okay, so we've tackled credit cards.
Yeah.
Or learned about the power of negotiation.
Uh-huh.
What's next on our financial journey?
Well, now that we've got a handle on debt,
Okay.
let's talk about making your money work for you.
Okay.
And that starts with choosing the right bank.
Okay, so where do we go from here?
Well, Sethi doesn't mince words when it comes to traditional banks.
Okay.
He points out that they often make a lot of money from fees,
Right.
especially overdraft fees,
Yeah.
which can eat into your savings.
So those seemingly small fees can actually add up to a significant amount.
Absolutely. They
Yeah.
can completely wipe out any interest you might earn in a year.
Yeah.
And it's not just overdraft fees.
Right.
There are ATM fees, monthly maintenance fees.
Yeah.
It can be a real drag on your finances.
But what's the alternative?
Yeah,
Are we talking about stashing our cash under the mattress?
not quite. Sethi's a big advocate for online banks.
Okay.
They typically have lower overhead costs,
Okay.
which allows them to offer much higher interest rates
Okay.
on savings and checking accounts.
Plus, they tend to have fewer fees, right?
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they're just as secure as traditional banks,
Okay.
FDIC insured and everything.
Right.
It's a classic example of how our assumptions about money can sometimes hold us back from making smarter choices.
It's funny how we get stuck in our ways, even when there might be better options out there.
Yeah, totally.
So once we found an awesome online bank, how do we make the most of it? What's the best way to use checking versus savings accounts?
So Sethi emphasizes having both.
Okay.
Your checking account is for everyday transactions and bills,
Okay.
while your savings account is for short-term and mid-term goals,
Uh-huh.
like building an emergency fund or saving for a down payment on a house.
That makes sense. But what if you don't have a lot of money to put in savings?
Right.
Does it even matter?
It absolutely does.
Okay.
Sethi stresses that even if you only have a small amount to save, having a separate savings account sets up good habits
Right.
and helps you mentally separate your spending money from your savings goals.
I can see how that would make a difference psychologically.
Totally.
It's like creating a visual reminder of your progress.
Yes.
Okay, so what does Sethi's personal banking setup look like?
He keeps it pretty simple.
Okay.
He has an interest-bearing checking account at Schwab
Okay.
and a high-yield savings account at ING Direct.
Gotcha.
And here's the key.
Okay.
He uses automatic transfers to move money between accounts seamlessly.
So he's automating his savings.
He is.
That's a great way to make sure it actually happens.
He is.
Okay, so we've covered credit cards, banking, responsible spending.
Yes.
What's next on our financial checklist?
Well, now that we have a solid foundation,
Okay.
it's time to talk about the I word,
Ooh, investing.
investing.
Sounds intimidating, but also kind of exciting.
Yeah.
But isn't that something you only worry about once you're older and have more money to play with?
That's a common misconception.
Okay.
Sethi makes a really compelling case for why young people should be investing, even if they don't have a ton of money to start with,
Why is that?
because of the power of compound interest.
Okay.
It's basically interest earned on interest.
Okay.
And the sooner you start, the more time your money has to grow exponentially.
Gotcha.
Sethi presents some pretty shocking statistics.
Okay.
Less than a third of employees under 25
Wow.
participate in their company's 401k plan.
Wait, so they're missing out on free money?
They are.
That seems crazy to me. Why wouldn't you take advantage of that?
I know, and even crazier, only a tiny percentage
Yeah.
contribute enough to get the full employer match,
Okay.
which is essentially free money from your company.
Okay, that's officially mind-blowing.
It is.
You're telling me my employer will actually match my contributions to a 401k?
In many cases, yes.
Wow.
And even if your employer doesn't offer a match,
Oh.
or if you're self-employed, there are other options, like a Roth IRA,
Okay.
which is a retirement account with some incredible tax advantages.
Okay. I'm definitely going to need you to explain those tax advantages because honestly, anything tax-related makes my head spin.
I hear you. Taxes can be confusing,
Yeah.
but with a Roth IRA, you contribute after-tax dollars,
Okay.
which means your money grows tax-free,
Okay.
and you don't have to pay taxes on your withdrawals in retirement.
So it's like getting a tax break on your future self.
Yeah,
That sounds pretty amazing.
it is.
Okay, I'm starting to see why Sethi is such a fan of Roth IRAs. But where does all this fit into his overall investment strategy?
Right.
You mentioned a ladder of personal finance earlier.
Yes, it's a 5-step system that Sethi lays out for building wealth.
Okay.
It starts with maximizing your employer's 401k match, if they offer one.
Okay.
Then it's all about eliminating high-interest debt, like credit cards, before moving on to other investments.
So it's a step-by-step approach that builds on itself.
Exactly. He even emphasizes that it's okay to go through the steps gradually.
Oh,
The important thing is to get started and keep moving forward.
right.
And you know what?
Yeah.
He even shares his personal regret for not starting to invest sooner. And that sense of urgency really resonates with me.
Yeah, it's like, okay, time to get serious about this investing thing.
Yes.
But there's so much information out there, it can be overwhelming to know where to begin.
Sure.
And honestly, the whole world of investing feels kind of intimidating.
Yeah.
Like, do I need to become a financial expert overnight to make smart decisions?
Not at all. And that's actually another one of Sethi's key points.
Okay.
He debunks this myth that investing is only for rich people or financial gurus.
Right.
He emphasizes that you can get started with even small amounts of money.
Okay.
And the key is to start early and be consistent.
I like the sound of that. Small, consistent actions over time.
Yes,
That seems manageable.
it is.
But before we jump into the nitty-gritty of investing, let's take a quick break
Okay.
and then come back to tackle that topic head on.
Sounds good.
We'll explore different types of investments, how to choose the right ones for you, and how to create a portfolio that aligns with your goals and risk tolerance.
Awesome.
All right, see you in a few.
Sounds good.
All right, so we're back and ready to tackle this whole investing thing. I have to admit, I'm still a little nervous about it, but also kind of excited to finally get started.
I hear you.
So where do we even begin?
Well, one of the first things that Sethi emphasizes is figuring out your investor profile.
Oh, investor profile. What does
Yeah.
that even mean?
Yeah, is that like a personality test for your money?
Uh-huh. Yeah, maybe.
It's basically assessing how much risk you're comfortable taking
Okay.
with your investments.
Right.
Some people are more risk averse, while others are more comfortable with volatility.
Okay.
There's no right or wrong answer. It's all about finding what aligns with your goals and your peace of mind.
That makes sense. I'm definitely someone who values security, so I wouldn't want to put all my eggs in a super risky basket.
Exactly. And
Yeah.
once you have a better understanding of your risk tolerance,
Okay.
you can start exploring different types of investments.
Okay.
Sethi talks about stocks, bonds, mutual funds, index funds.
Whoa, that's a lot of options.
Yeah.
How do we even know which ones are right for us?
Well, Sethi is a big fan of index funds, especially for beginners.
Oh, okay.
They're basically baskets of stocks that track a specific market index, like the S&P 500.
So instead of trying to pick individual stocks,
Yeah.
you're investing in a diversified collection of companies. Exactly.
It's a lot less risky than trying to pick individual stocks, and they tend to perform very well over the long term.
But wait, I thought we were supposed to avoid putting all our eggs in one basket.
Right, you're right. Diversification is key.
Okay.
And that's another benefit of index funds.
Okay.
They automatically provide diversification because they hold a wide range of stocks.
That takes a lot of the guesswork out of it.
It does.
Okay, so index funds seem like a good place to start.
Yeah.
But what about these other options you mentioned, like bonds and mutual funds?
Sure. So bonds are essentially loans
Right.
that you make to governments or corporations,
Okay.
and they typically offer a fixed rate of return.
Okay.
They're generally considered less risky than stocks, but they also have lower potential for growth.
So bonds are more of a slow and steady approach, while stocks have the potential for higher returns but also higher risk?
Exactly. And mutual funds are similar to index funds
Okay.
in that they pool money from multiple investors
Right.
to buy a portfolio of stocks, bonds, or other assets. The main difference is that mutual funds are actively managed by a professional,
Okay.
while index funds passively track a specific index.
But didn't you say that even professional investors often fail to beat the market consistently?
You did?
So does that mean mutual funds aren't worth it?
That's a great point, and Sethi actually dives into that very topic.
Okay.
He presents some fascinating research showing that many actively managed mutual funds actually underperform index funds.
Wow.
Especially when you factor in their higher fees.
So sticking with index funds might actually be the smarter move in the long run.
It very well could be. And remember, Sethi encourages us to be skeptical of so-called financial experts.
Right.
He reminds us that the financial industry often benefits from making things seem more complicated than they really are.
That's so true. It's easy to feel like you need a PhD in finance just to understand the basics.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's say we figured out our investor profile, we've decided to start with index funds,
Right.
and we're ready to put some money in the market.
Okay.
How do we actually make that happen?
So Sethi is a big advocate for automatic investing,
Okay.
which is essentially setting up regular automated contributions to your investment accounts.
So it's like automating your savings,
Yeah.
but for investing.
Exactly. It's one of the most powerful tools you can use to build wealth over time.
Wow.
By consistently investing, you're taking advantage of dollar cost averaging.
Hold on, another term to break down.
Okay.
What's dollar cost averaging?
It's basically investing a fixed amount of money at regular intervals,
Okay.
regardless of the market's ups and downs.
Okay.
This helps you avoid trying to time the market,
Right.
which is notoriously difficult to do,
Yeah.
even for professionals.
So instead of trying to predict when the market is going to go up or down, I just keep investing consistently no matter what.
You got it. And over time, this strategy can help you buy more shares when prices are low
Okay.
and fewer shares when prices are high,
Okay.
which ultimately lowers your average cost per share.
That makes a lot of sense. So automatic investing takes the emotion out of it and keeps me disciplined even when the market is volatile.
Exactly.
Yeah.
It also helps you stay focused on the long game.
Okay.
Remember, investing is a marathon, not a sprint.
Right.
Sethi emphasizes that it's not about getting rich quick.
Uh-huh.
It's about building a solid foundation and letting your money grow steadily over time.
Okay. I'm starting to feel a lot less intimidated by investing.
Good.
But what about all the different accounts and platforms?
Sure.
Where do I actually go to open an investment account and choose my investments?
Sethi walks through a few different options,
Okay.
including online brokerages like Vanguard Fidelity and Schwab.
Okay.
They all have their pros and cons, but they're generally very user-friendly and offer a wide range of investment options.
So I can do all of this online? I don't have to go meet with a financial advisor or anything?
Not necessarily. You can definitely manage your investments yourself online.
Okay.
And Sethi provides some great resources and tools to help you do that. But if you're feeling overwhelmed or unsure about where to start talking to a fee-only financial advisor, could be a good option.
Fee only? What does that mean?
It means they don't earn commissions on the products they recommend.
Oh, okay.
So you can be confident that they're giving you unbiased advice.
That's good to know. Okay, so once I've set up my accounts and chosen my investments, what's next?
So Sethi stresses the importance of easy maintenance.
Okay.
He advocates for a hands-off approach
Okay.
where you're not constantly tinkering with your investments.
Okay.
You review your portfolio periodically, maybe every 6 months or so,
Uh-huh.
but otherwise you let it do its thing.
I like this idea of feeding your system.
Yeah.
It's like planting a seed and watching it grow.
Right.
You don't need to dig it up every day to see if it's progressing. You
Yeah.
just provide the right conditions and it will flourish on its own.
That's a great analogy.
Ah,
And remember, patience is key.
right.
Investing is a long-term game,
Yeah.
and there will be ups and downs along the way.
Niche.
But by staying focused on your goals and sticking to your plan, you'll be well on your way to achieving financial freedom.
This is all making a lot more sense now.
Go.
So we've covered credit cards, banking, investing.
Yeah.
What else does Sethi cover? And I will teach you to be rich.
He also dives into things like negotiating a raise,
Okay.
automating bill payments, and even finding great deals on travel.
Wow. He really does cover all the bases.
He does.
It's like a one-stop shop for taking control of your financial life.
It really is. And one of the most important takeaways for me was his emphasis on action over perfection.
What do you mean by that?
He believes it's more important to get started with even an 85% good enough system
Okay.
than to get paralyzed by details and do nothing at all.
It's like that classic 80-20 rule, right?
Yeah,
Focus on the 20% of actions that will give you 80% of the results.
exactly.
Okay, so we've covered a lot of ground. Where do we go from here?
The best way to solidify all this knowledge is to put it into action. What's one small step you can take today based on what we've discussed?
That's a great question. And to be honest, after diving into this book with you, I'm feeling a lot more confident and empowered to take that next step. I'm thinking maybe checking my credit score is a good place to start.
That's a great first step.
Yeah.
Or maybe setting up an automatic transfer to your savings account, or even just scheduling some time to research different investment options. Every little bit counts.
And remember, this is just the tip of the iceberg.
Yeah.
Sethi's book offers so much more detailed advice and actionable strategies to help you master your money and achieve your financial goals.
It does.
So, one thing that really struck me as we've been going through Sethi's advice is this idea that managing your money
Right.
doesn't have to be
Yeah.
this huge, overwhelming task.
Absolutely. Sethi really emphasizes that.
Yeah.
He talks about how a lot of people get paralyzed by the thought of having to
Right.
get every single detail perfect before they even start.
Right.
And that's just not realistic or necessary.
It's like trying to learn a new language by memorizing the entire dictionary at once.
Yeah.
You never actually start speaking.
Exactly. Sethi's all about breaking it down into manageable steps
Right.
and focusing on progress, not perfection.
You love that.
He even encourages people to embrace mistakes as learning opportunities.
That's so important. I think a lot of us avoid dealing with our finances because we're afraid of making a mistake.
It's a common fear.
Yeah.
But think about it this way.
Okay.
It's better to make a small mistake early on and learn from it
Right?
than to avoid taking action altogether
Yeah.
out of fear of doing something wrong.
It's like that saying, the only way to avoid making mistakes is to do nothing.
Totally.
But doing nothing is often the biggest mistake of all when it comes to our finances.
Yes.
Especially when we're young and have time on our side.
Right. Time is our greatest asset when it comes to investing.
Yeah.
And the longer we wait to get started, the more we miss out on the power of compounding.
For sure.
Sethi even uses this analogy of people who debate endlessly about which mutual fund is the absolute best,
Right.
while the people who just pick a decent fund and start investing are already seeing their money grow. It's about taking action, not getting stuck in analysis paralysis.
So true. Sometimes we get so caught up in finding the perfect solution
Yes.
that we end up doing nothing at all.
And that's where Sethi's emphasis on automation really comes in handy.
Right.
By setting up automatic contributions to your investment accounts,
Uh-huh.
you're essentially taking yourself out of the equation.
Yeah.
You're not tempted to skip a month or pull your money out when the market dips.
Right.
You're playing the long game, and that's how you win in investing.
It's like putting your finances on autopilot.
It is.
Okay. So as we wrap up our deep dive
Yeah.
into I Will Teach You to Be Rich,
Okay.
what are some of the key takeaways you hope our listener will remember?
Well, I think the biggest one is that taking control of your finances
Okay.
doesn't have to be complicated or scary.
Right.
Sethi provides a clear roadmap, actionable steps, and a ton of resources to help you succeed.
And he reminds us that it's not about being perfect.
Right.
It's about making
progress.
progress one step at a time.
Progress one step at a time.
Yeah, well, I don't know about you, but I'm feeling a lot more confident and empowered about my finances after diving into this book.
You too.
Sethi really does break it down
He does.
in a way that's easy to understand and, most importantly, actionable.
Absolutely. It's a game changer for anyone who wants to take control of their financial future.
So to our listener, we encourage you to check out I Will Teach You to Be Rich.
Yes.
Even if you just start with one chapter,
Definitely.
you'll be surprised how much you can learn
Yeah.
and how motivated you'll feel to start taking action.
Absolutely. And remember, even small steps can lead to big results over time.
That's right. Start today, and before you know it, you'll be well on your way to financial freedom.
You will?
Until next time, happy diving.